Revenge office stories. Imagine being trapped in a job that feels like a daily assault on your soul, where every morning you wake up with a knot in your stomach, dreading the hours ahead. Your boss, a tyrant who thrives on control and chaos, turns every workday into a battle for survival. Then, one day, you decide you've had enough. You walk away, not with a polite 2-week notice, but with a bold, unapologetic exit that leaves your toxic workplace reeling. That's exactly what I did. I quit my soul-crushing job at a delivery company with zero notice. And let me tell you, it was the most exhilarating, glorious moment of my life. My manager, Monica, had built a workplace so toxic it could have been a masterclass in how to alienate and exploit employees. When I finally walked out, I didn't just leave. I made sure she'd feel the ripple effects of her own toxic behavior for weeks, maybe months. If you've ever fantasized about delivering the ultimate comeback to a nightmare boss, grab a coffee and settle in, because this story of petty revenge, liberation, and reclaiming my life is one you'll want to hear from start to finish. This wasn't just about quitting a job. It was about breaking free from a cycle of disrespect, manipulation, and chronic stress that had taken over every aspect of my life. Monica's leadership, or lack thereof, pushed me to my breaking point, but it also taught me a powerful lesson. Sometimes the best way to fight back is to walk away on your own terms, leaving the chaos you endured behind for those who created it to clean up. Here's the full story of how I went from being a stressed out, overworked employee to someone who reclaimed her freedom in the most satisfying way possible. To truly grasp why I quit the way I did, you need to understand the nightmare that was working under Monica. I joined this delivery company fresh out of high school, full of optimism and ready to build a career. For the first few years, it was solid, not perfect, but good enough. I had a great rapport with my coworkers, swapping stories during breaks and helping each other through busy days. The assistant manager, Tom, was a gem, always fair, always willing to listen, and quick to jump in when things got hectic. We were a team, and that sense of camaraderie made the long hours bearable. But then Monica took over as manager, and it was like a dark cloud descended over the office. Almost overnight, the workplace transformed from functional to a pressure cooker of fear, distrust, and unrelenting stress. Monica wasn't just a bad boss. She was a walking violation of every management principle you can imagine. Her leadership style was a toxic cocktail of micromanagement, manipulation, and practices that were not only unethical, but, in some cases, outright illegal. Let's start with the wage theft, because that was the most egregious offense. As hourly employees, my coworkers and I were routinely working 60 to 70-hour weeks. The delivery industry is relentless. Packages don't stop coming, and Monica made sure we felt the full weight of that workload. But when it came time to log our hours, she had a strict rule. We could only report 45 hours, no matter how much we actually worked. If you dared mention the word overtime, you'd get a glare that could freeze lava, followed by a curt, "Overtime isn't allowed. You should know better." She knew we were working those extra hours. She was the one piling on the assignments, demanding we stay late to finish tasks she deemed urgent. By refusing to let us log those hours, she was stealing our wages, plain and simple. This wasn't just bad management, it was a clear violation of the Fair Labor Standards Act, which mandates time-and-a-half pay for any hours over 40 in a workweek for non-exempt employees. The wage theft was infuriating, but Monica's manipulative tactics made things even worse. Take Tom, our assistant manager. He'd been with the company for nearly a decade, a salaried employee who'd earned his position through hard work and dedication. Monica decided to demote him to an hourly role, effective immediately. Did his workload lighten? Not even a little. He was still expected to oversee staff, manage operations, and handle the same high-pressure responsibilities, but now for less pay and without the benefits he'd relied on, like health insurance and paid leave. It was a blatant cost-cutting move, executed with zero regard for Tom's loyalty or well-being. The message was clear. No one was safe, no matter how hard you worked or how long you'd been with the company. It crushed morale and made us all feel like we were just cogs in Monica's machine. Then there was the surveillance, which took things to a whole new level of creepy. If someone called in sick, Monica didn't just accept it. She turned into a private investigator. She was known to drive by employees' houses to check if their cars were in the driveway, as if being home was proof you were faking it. I'll never forget the day my coworker Sarah came back from a sick day, pale and still recovering from the flu, only for Monica to casually mention she'd seen Sarah's car at home. Sarah was mortified, and the rest of us were horrified. This wasn't just an invasion of privacy. It was a deliberate power play to make us feel like we couldn't even be sick without being treated like criminals. It created a culture of paranoia where we second-guessed every decision to take a day off, wondering if Monica would show up at our doorstep. Some of us started parking our cars in garages or behind houses just to avoid her spying. That's how bad it got. Even on slow days, which should have been a chance to catch our breath, Monica found ways to make us miserable. She'd show up unannounced, pacing the office like a predator looking for prey. Her presence alone was enough to make your stomach churn. She'd hover over our desks, critiquing everything: how we answered phones, how we organized files, even how we sat in our chairs. It was like she was searching for reasons to reprimand us, no matter how trivial. One day, she spent 10 minutes lecturing me on the proper way to staple paperwork, as if it was a matter of national security. The constant micromanagement made it impossible to relax or focus, and it destroyed any sense of trust. We weren't a team anymore. We were just a group of stressed-out people trying to survive her scrutiny. The toll on my mental and physical health was undeniable. I stopped sleeping properly, lying awake at night, replaying the day's humiliations or dreading the next shift. My anxiety was through the roof. I'd jump at every email notification, expecting another passive-aggressive note from Monica. I started snapping at friends and family, my patience worn thin by the constant stress. I even noticed physical symptoms: headaches, stomach issues, and a bone-deep exhaustion that no amount of coffee could fix. Research backs this up. Toxic work environments can lead to chronic stress, burnout, and even serious health issues like hypertension and depression. I could feel myself unraveling, and I knew I couldn't keep living like this. Monica had turned our workplace into a battlefield, and I was done fighting for my sanity. The breaking point wasn't a single moment, but a slow, relentless buildup of frustration, exhaustion, and resentment. The delivery company was chronically understaffed, and it's no mystery why Monica's toxic management drove people away faster than HR could hire replacements. Good employees quit in droves, and those of us left behind were forced to pick up the slack. Our regular office duties, scheduling deliveries, handling customer complaints, managing inventory, were overwhelming enough. But Monica also expected us to cover delivery routes when we were short on carriers, which was basically always. Picture this. You've just worked a 12-hour day in the office, your brain fried from juggling a million tasks, and then you're told to hop in a van and deliver packages for another 4 or 5 hours. All of this, of course, while knowing you wouldn't be paid for half the hours you worked, thanks to Monica's wage theft. We were doing the work of 3 or 4 people for the pay of less than 1. The final straw came when my coworker Doug vanished. Doug was the kind of employee every company dreams of: reliable, efficient, and always willing to go the extra mile. He'd been with us for years, quietly keeping things running despite Monica's chaos. Then one day his desk was empty. No goodbye, no 2-week notice, no explanation. Monica didn't even acknowledge it, which only made it more suspicious. We later learned through the grapevine that Doug had done exactly what I was starting to dream about. He quit without a word, walking away from the madness without giving Monica the satisfaction of a proper exit. His departure was like a wake-up call. It showed me that there was a way out, that I didn't have to keep playing by Monica's rules or suffering through her toxic environment just to be professional. Doug's exit lit a spark in me. and I started to imagine what it would feel like to be free. That's when I began job hunting in secret. I'd spend every lunch break huddled in my car, scrolling through job boards on my phone, updating my resume, and applying to anything that looked remotely promising. After work, when I was so drained I could barely think straight, I'd force myself to sit at my laptop and keep going. I applied to dozens of jobs, administrative roles, customer service positions, even entry-level gigs in industries I'd never considered. I didn't care about finding the perfect job. I just needed an escape. The process was exhausting and the rejection stung, but the thought of getting away from Monica kept me going. I started imagining what it would be like to work for a manager who didn't treat me like an enemy, in an environment where I wasn't constantly on edge. After weeks of effort, I landed an interview with a reputable company in a different industry. The interview was a revelation. The hiring manager was warm, professional, and genuinely interested in my skills and experience. We talked about career growth, work-life balance, and company values, things Monica had never even pretended to care about. She asked about my goals, listened to my answers, and treated me like a human being, not a resource to be exploited. When I got the official offer letter a few days later, I felt like I'd won the lottery. The job came with better pay, solid benefits, and most importantly, a workplace that seemed supportive and respectful. I accepted immediately, and in that moment, a wave of relief hit me so hard I had to sit down. It was like I'd been carrying a boulder on my shoulders for years and could finally set it down. As I read the offer letter, one thing became crystal clear. I wasn't giving Monica a 2-week notice. A 2-week notice is a courtesy you extend to an employer who's treated you with respect, who's earned your loyalty through fairness and decency. Monica had done none of that. She'd stolen my wages, invaded my privacy, and created an environment so hostile it was affecting my health. She didn't deserve my courtesy. She deserved to face the consequences of her actions. Quitting without notice wasn't just about leaving. It was about taking back my power and sending a message that her behavior had consequences. I was ready to make my exit, and I wanted it to be unforgettable. Once I decided to quit without notice, I started planning my exit with the precision of a military operation. I wanted it to be deliberate, impactful, and just a little bit petty. After all, Monica had earned it. The timing was critical, and as luck would have it, the perfect opportunity presented itself. My last day was a Sunday when Monica was the manager on duty, and it was just the two of us in the office. It was the ideal setup for my plan. I decided to play the role of the model employee one last time, not out of loyalty, but to set the stage for maximum chaos when I walked away. That Sunday, I went above and beyond. I volunteered to take on extra delivery routes that had been abandoned due to our chronic understaffing. I stayed late, helping Monica close the office, lock up, and complete all the final tasks. I smiled, stayed calm, and said things like, "Don't worry, Monica, I'll take care of it." To her, it probably looked like she'd finally won, like I was fully under her control. In reality, I was setting her up for a fall. Every extra task I took on, every moment I spent making her life easier, was part of the plan. She had no idea she was about to lose her only reliable office employee, and I savored the thought of her shock when she realized it. The next morning, Monday, was the moment of truth. I got to the office early, around 9:30 a.m., knowing Monica was due to arrive at 10 o'clock. I sat in my car, took a deep breath, and wrote my resignation letter. It was short, direct, and left no room for negotiation. Dear Monica, I am resigning from my position, effective immediately. This is my final communication with the company. I will not be answering any calls, emails, or messages. Do not contact me. If anyone from the company comes to my home, I will contact the police. My name. The last line was non-negotiable. Given Monica's history of driving by employees' houses, I needed to draw a hard line in the sand. This wasn't just a resignation. It was a declaration that her reign of terror over my life was over. I printed the letter, walked into the office, and taped it to her office door, right where she'd see it the second she walked in. Then I took my office key, walked to the mail slot on her door, and dropped it inside. Clink. That tiny sound was the sweetest music I'd ever heard. I walked out a side door, knowing it would lock behind me, and that was it. I was free. As I walked to my car, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I didn't feel guilty or unprofessional. I felt empowered, liberated, glorious. I got in my car, drove away, and didn't look back. The sense of freedom was overwhelming, like I'd just escaped a prison I hadn't realized I was in. The revenge was in the chaos I left behind. Monica was now alone in an understaffed office, facing a mountain of work she couldn't possibly handle on her own. She'd have to deal with the scheduling, the customer complaints, the paperwork, and, best of all, the delivery routes she'd forced us to cover. I knew she'd be scrambling, probably cursing my name, and that thought brought me a deep sense of satisfaction. She'd built this toxic environment, and now she had to live in it, surrounded by the mess she'd created. The fallout was even better than I'd hoped. 2 weeks later, I got a text from a former coworker with the best news I'd heard in ages. Tom, the assistant manager Monica had demoted, had followed my lead and quit without notice. Her entire office staff was gone. The office was in complete disarray, and Monica was left to pick up the pieces. It was poetic justice. Research shows that over 50% of employees in toxic work environments end up quitting, often citing poor leadership as the primary reason. My exit wasn't just a personal victory. It sparked a chain reaction that exposed Monica's failures as a manager. She'd built a house of cards, and I'd given it the push it needed to collapse. The thought of her struggling to keep the office running, forced to confront the consequences of her actions, was the cherry on top of my revenge Sunday. Walking away from that job was like waking up from a nightmare. The constant anxiety, the sleepless nights, the dread of going to work, it all started to fade. My new job is everything the old one wasn't. My manager respects my time, my contributions are valued, and I'm actually paid for the hours I work. I'm sleeping through the night again, and I've rediscovered parts of myself I thought I'd lost. My sense of humor, my energy, my ability to enjoy life outside of work. I've even started picking up hobbies I'd abandoned, like painting and hiking, because I finally have the mental space to enjoy them. Leaving wasn't just the best decision I ever made. It was a reclamation of my mental, emotional, and physical health. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that a toxic work environment isn't something you have to endure. It's not normal, and it's not your fault. A 2-week notice is a professional courtesy, but it's not a legal obligation in most cases. When you're dealing with a boss like Monica, someone who thrives on exploitation, control, and disrespect, they don't deserve your courtesy. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away and let them deal with the consequences of their actions. My exit wasn't just about leaving a job. It was about choosing myself over a system that was designed to break me. It was about setting boundaries and refusing to let someone else's toxicity define my worth. I know I'm not the only one with a story like this. So many of you have dealt with a boss like Monica or a job that drained your soul. Maybe you've quit in a blaze of glory, or maybe you're still stuck, dreaming of the day you can break free. I want to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments below. Tell me about the toxic boss who made your life hell. The moment you finally snapped, or the time you walked away and never looked back. Sharing these experiences isn't just cathartic. It's a way to inspire others to take back their power. Let's build a community of people who've said, enough is enough, and chosen their peace over a paycheck. Your story could be the push someone else needs to make a change. Thanks for reading my story. If it resonated with you, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more content about taking control of your life. Above all, remember this: your mental health, your dignity, your peace, they're worth more than any job. Prioritize them. Always.